Have you ever thought that having a life partner at the age of 60 would make life more pleasant? But what if I told you that sometimes it actually makes things more complicated and exhausting? Many older adults once hoped for a happy ending when they found a late-in-life companion. But reality often doesn't resemble a romantic movie. Tense dinners due to conflicting opinions, unnecessary arguments about finances, or simply the feeling of having one's personal space invaded. All of these can make them question their decision to enter a new relationship in later years. Take the story of Evelyn, 67, who got married for the second time after retiring. She looked forward to a peaceful life with her companion. However, just 2 years later, she decided to divorce due to overwhelming financial pressures and the feeling of being controlled over every expense. She realized that being alone doesn't necessarily mean being lonely. It can be a form of precious freedom. What's concerning is that many people in the same age group are going through similar situations, but they're afraid to speak up, afraid to admit that the relationship they thought would be their lifeline is actually draining them. And that silence can quietly lead to both mental and physical health consequences. But there is hope. Being single at this age isn't just a safer choice. It can bring peace, autonomy, and freedom, things that an unhealthy relationship could never provide. In this video, you'll discover 5 reasons why living alone after 60 might be a better decision for your health, emotions, and overall well-being. If you find this topic helpful, don't forget to hit like and share it with your loved ones. You might just help someone find the relief they've been searching for. Leave a comment if you've ever gone through something similar, or if you're torn between staying in a relationship and choosing freedom. Your story could be a gift to someone else. Now let's dive into these 5 reasons. And who knows, you might just see yourself in each one. 1. The emotional burden of constant compromise. In our younger years, we often overlook differences, sometimes out of love, sometimes out of fear of being alone. But once we reach our 60s, even the smallest things can ignite emotional tension. Have you ever felt exhausted just from agreeing to something you didn't truly want? Like eating food that doesn't suit your taste, watching TV shows you have no interest in, or adjusting your daily routine just to accommodate someone else? These seemingly harmless compromises, when repeated day after day, gradually erode the inner peace of older adults. As we age, our brains become more sensitive to stress. Studies in the US show that older adults handle stress less effectively than when they were younger. This means that every time we swallow a personal desire to keep the peace, we're trading away a piece of our emotional health. Living with another person, no matter how close, often requires a series of small adjustments in habits, preferences, and personal space. If this happens constantly, it can lead to irritability, frustration, and a slow loss of the tranquility we once cherished. However, this can be changed. It begins by facing the truth that even a meaningful relationship should not come at the cost of one person's constant sacrifice. Inner peace does not come from silently enduring. It comes from honoring our own needs and emotions. Living alone, rather than being a sign of loneliness, can actually be a precious space to care for your emotional well-being, allowing your mind to feel light, free from always having to calculate every word or action. If you've ever felt drained by constant compromise, try spending time living by your own rhythm. Choose the food you enjoy, watch the shows that excite you, and arrange your schedule the way you prefer. You may be surprised at how naturally your energy and joy begin to return. And from there, open your heart to a new understanding. At this age, you have every right to prioritize your peace. No need for arguments, no need for explanations. Just listen to yourself and respect what you truly need. Up next, we'll explore another perspective: independence, something many people expect to gain in old age, but often lose the moment they enter a relationship. 2. Losing true independence. Did you once think that retirement would be the time to live life on your own terms? No more rigid schedules, no more pleasing others, just peaceful days doing what you love. But then a new relationship comes along, and you start losing the very thing you waited your whole life for: freedom. Think about it. When was the last time you made a decision entirely for yourself? It could be buying something you wanted, choosing a vacation destination, or simply spending a day at home without having to check with anyone. In a relationship, these decisions suddenly become more complicated. The other person has needs and expectations, and you fall back into the cycle of considering, weighing, compromising. The issue isn't about who's right or wrong, it's about a deeper truth. Older adults often long to be authentic after years of sacrifice. They've spent decades doing things for their children, their careers, and their responsibilities. And just when they expect to finally live for themselves, they find they must once again adjust for someone else, whether it's a spouse, a partner, or a roommate. More and more seniors are choosing to live alone, not because they lack companionship, but because they want to preserve their right to self-determination. That right isn't just about major life choices, it's about everyday decisions. What to eat, what to read, when to sleep, where to go, how to spend money. When that freedom is taken away, people often feel like they're living for someone else all over again. But it doesn't have to be that way. Living alone, and especially in later life, can be a journey back to yourself. It's a chance to listen to, understand, and honor the personal desires you once set aside for others. It's a time when you can live slowly, authentically, and independently. You have every right to decide everything in your life without needing permission, without needing to explain. Happiness doesn't always come from having someone beside you. Sometimes it comes from not having anyone drown out your inner voice. Remember, independence doesn't mean loneliness. It means autonomy, freedom, and the ability to live fully with yourself. Something not all relationships can provide. In the next section, we'll talk about another equally important perspective: the emotional exhaustion that comes from constantly adjusting for others. Something many people don't recognize until it's too late. 3. Emotional exhaustion from constant compromise. Have you ever felt drained, not from physical labor, but from having to agree every day to things you don't truly want? After the age of 60, what wears people down the most isn't the big burdens, but the endless stream of small, constant adjustments. What to eat for dinner, where to go on the weekend, what to watch on TV, whether to wake up early or sleep in, whether to talk or stay silent. In a relationship, all of these things require consensus. Every little decision must go through a shared filter. And if you're the one who often gives in to keep the peace, emotional depletion becomes inevitable. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, the exhaustion that comes from making too many decisions. This becomes even more severe when you're constantly adjusting for someone else and not living in alignment with your own preferences. When you were younger, maybe you had the energy to manage it all, but in later life, even a small disagreement can keep you up all night. So what are the consequences? A lingering fatigue with no clear cause, a heightened sensitivity where you get irritated or hurt more easily, a gradual withdrawal from social activities because you feel like you're no longer yourself. Many people fail to realize that the underlying cause is constant compromise, a quiet form of emotional burnout that can be very dangerous to mental health in older adults. But there is a way out. Living alone, instead of being a sign of loneliness, can actually be the space you need to restore emotional energy. No more asking for approval, no more negotiating every tiny detail. You have full control to decide what's right for you. That kind of peace at this stage of life is priceless. Instead of feeling worn out trying to please someone else, you can start doing what genuinely brings you joy. Instead of arguing, you can choose silence. Instead of giving in, you can choose what supports your health and emotional well-being. That's not selfish. It's a mature form of self-love. Try spending just one day without asking, "What would you like to eat?" Or, "Is that okay with you?" A day that's entirely yours, from your morning routine to the time you go to bed. You might rediscover a sense of lightness you've been missing for years. Up next, we'll dive into a topic few dare to speak openly about, but one that is all too real in older relationships: the burden of caregiving when one partner's health begins to decline. The unspoken burden of caregiving. No one wants to imagine the day when their loved one becomes frail, ill, or unable to care for themselves. But in later life, it's no longer a question of if, but when. And when that time comes, the relationship that once felt like a safe haven can quietly turn into a heavy burden, especially for the one left to care. You may understand this better if you've ever had to wake up at 3 a.m. to rush someone to the emergency room, or spent an entire day managing meals, medications, doctor appointments, cleaning, only to find yourself too exhausted by nightfall to even think about your own needs. In the U.S., over 40 million people are caregiving for elderly loved ones, and a large portion of them are seniors themselves. Caring for a sick partner isn't just physically demanding, it's a major mental and emotional challenge. Anxiety, fear, stress, and helplessness weigh on the caregiver every single day. And the hardest part, many won't admit how tired they really are. Out of guilt, out of a sense of duty, out of fear of being judged. But caring for someone else when you yourself need care can be deeply harmful. It weakens your immune system, raises the risk of depression, and makes older adults more vulnerable to chronic illnesses. What should be a time for rest and enjoyment in the final years of life instead becomes a slow drain on energy and spirit. In contrast, living alone, when well prepared, can lead to a healthier life. You can focus entirely on your own well-being, from nutrition and sleep to physical and mental activities you enjoy. With no need to constantly worry about someone else, you're free to schedule regular health checkups, learn new skills, or simply enjoy true, uninterrupted rest. What matters most is that you can proactively build a strong support system, including medical care, friends, community services, and professional assistance, rather than relying solely on one person or becoming someone else's primary caregiver by default. Don't let dedication become self-sacrifice. Choose a lifestyle where you are the priority, where you can rest, and where your own needs are honored, not out of selfishness, but out of clarity and self-respect. And now we come to the final point, one that often goes unnoticed, but is a major source of stress in late-life relationships: the emotional and financial pressures that come with starting over too late. Let's explore that next. 5. Financial and emotional pressure from late-life relationships. Love knows no age, and that's true. But after the age of 60, love is no longer just a romantic tale. It comes with layers of responsibility that, if not carefully managed, can turn into burdens, especially financial and emotional ones. Did you know that, according to statistics in the U.S., financial conflict is one of the most common sources of stress in older adult relationships? At this stage in life, each person already has a financial foundation: pensions, savings, social security, and sometimes ongoing financial obligations to their children. When two people come together later in life, merging finances isn't as simple as putting everything together and living happily ever after. Who pays the bills? Who covers the vacation costs? Should expenses be split equally, or should one person shoulder more due to higher income? Should you provide financial support to your partner's children from a previous marriage? These are delicate questions, but if left unaddressed, they can carry significant consequences. They create stress not only financially but also emotionally, evoking feelings of being controlled, exploited, or stripped of financial autonomy. At this age, most of us desire a stable, predictable life. Yet a new relationship, instead of offering peace of mind, can sometimes introduce new layers of worry. Many people have had to change their spending habits, sell assets, or dip into savings just to blend in with their partner's lifestyle. Some feel they've lost control over their own finances, leading to confusion and a diminished sense of self within their own home. By contrast, living alone allows you full control over your budget, the freedom to invest in what matters to you, and the ability to make financial decisions without needing to discuss every purchase. Personal finance isn't just about numbers. It's the foundation of independence and the feeling that you are still in charge of your own life. Avoiding money-related conflicts also reduces emotional strain. No more feeling like you have to stretch yourself to match someone else's standards. No more fear of being judged for your spending habits. You're free to use your money in ways that support your health, interests, and inner peace. Most importantly, living alone empowers you to set clear, transparent boundaries in all your relationships, with children, friends, and the community, so that every connection is based on choice, not obligation. So if you've ever asked yourself, would living alone be too lonely? Maybe it's time to ask a different question. Am I truly free and at peace in my current relationship? You deserve a life without financial or emotional pressure. And sometimes choosing to live alone isn't an act of avoidance. It's a courageous decision by someone who understands the true value of freedom and peace. Thank you for taking the time to listen. That alone shows you truly value yourself, a rare and precious thing, especially at an age when a society expects us to simply settle down. Together, we've just explored 5 reasons why living alone after the age of 60 isn't just a safe choice. It's a powerful way to preserve peace, health, and emotional freedom. It's not about loneliness. It's about the chance to return to yourself, to live the rest of your years on your own terms, without having to mold yourself to fit someone else's life. What have you learned from these reflections? How many things have you sacrificed just to maintain a relationship that no longer brought you joy? And if you could start over, what would you choose for yourself? Leave a comment, because your story might be the light someone else needs when they're lost in the dark. If you found what I shared helpful, please like, share, or send it to a friend who may need it. You never know. A small action today could help someone avoid years of unnecessary exhaustion. I hope you'll continue to walk with me in future posts, where we won't just talk about aging, but about how to age with dignity, intention, and freedom. We deserve a community where older adults are not forgotten, but heard, understood, and respected. It is never too late to begin again, on your own terms. And if anyone ever tells you that living alone is something to fear, smile and tell them, no, it's the gift I chose for my peace.